All right, so today we're diving into PDD Holdings.
Yeah.
This company's been getting some serious attention,
Yeah.
especially with analysts giving it a strong buy rating. But then on the other hand, you see the stock price has actually dipped recently. So we're going to try to figure out what's going on.
Yeah, it's a little bit of a head scratcher.
Exactly,
But we've
exactly.
got, their financial reports. We've
Mhm.
got some of that online chatter that's been going around.
Yeah.
See if we can make sense of it all, for our listeners.
All right, so let's kick things off with the basics.
Okay.
What exactly is PDD Holdings? What do they actually do?
So what's really interesting about PDD is they're not just your typical e-commerce company.
Right.
They've kind of found this like unique niche for themselves by blending online shopping with like a social media experience.
So it's not just about buying stuff. It's about the whole,
Yeah, exactly.
it's
Like
like a community.
digital marketplace where you can shop, you can share deals with your friends.
Oh, that's cool.
You get that like community buzz going.
Yeah, I can see that being pretty appealing.
Yeah, and it seems to be working for them, especially when you look at their financials.
Okay, so let's talk numbers then. What are we looking at here?
Well, their gross margin is a whopping 62.06%.
Whoa, hold on. 62.06%.
Yeah,
That's huge.
and their profit margin is 29.10%.
Okay, so they're not just making money, they're making a lot of money.
Exactly. That's not just good, that's exceptional.
Yeah, that's way above average for any e-commerce company, really.
Right.
What's the secret to these crazy margins?
Well, a few things. First, they've really tapped into that power of social commerce, right?
Yeah.
They're leveraging user engagement to drive sales, so they don't have to spend as much on marketing as like traditional e-commerce companies.
That's smart.
Second, they've built a really strong logistics network in China,
Okay,
so they can offer competitive pricing and super fast delivery.
gotcha.
And finally, they've really focused on a wide range of products,
Yeah.
appealing to a really diverse customer base.
So it's like a digital version of those giant open air markets you see.
Precisely. It's like a bustling marketplace, but online.
I like that. I like that analogy.
Yeah.
Okay, so smart business model, amazing profit margins, but then we also saw that they're sitting on a mountain of free cash flow.
Yeah.
Like we're talking $17.68 billion
Billion with a B.
with a B. That's got to be a good sign, right?
Absolutely. Free cash flow is basically a company's play money. It's the cash they have left over after covering all their essential expenses and investments.
So it's like what they can use to kind of grow and expand.
Exactly. They can use it to, expand operations, develop new technologies, acquire competitors, even reward shareholders with dividends or stock buybacks.
It's like having a huge safety net and a treasure chest of opportunity.
Precisely. It gives them incredible flexibility.
All right, so financially, they seem to be in a really good spot.
Right. And to top it all off, their debt-to-equity ratio is practically non-existent.
Non-existent.
It's a tiny 0.04, which is almost unheard of these days.
So they're basically debt-free.
Essentially, yeah.
Okay, so we've got a company with a unique business model, amazing profit margins, tons of free cash flow, and virtually no debt. Sounds like the perfect stock, right?
Right. On paper, it looks like a dream.
Yeah, but here's where things get a little weird. Their stock price has actually dropped over 5% this year.
Yeah, that's the million-dollar question.
So is the market missing something, or are we...
Right. What are we not seeing here?
Exactly. We're going to have to dig a little deeper to figure this one out.
That's where it gets really interesting.
All right, let's do it. All right, so we've got these amazing financials, but the stock price just isn't budging.
Yeah, it's a puzzle.
So let's take a look at those valuation ratios you talked about. What can those tell us?
Okay, so one of the first things analysts look at is the price-to-earnings ratio, or PE ratio.
PE ratio, okay.
And PDD's trailing PE ratio is 12.24.
Okay.
And the forward PE is even lower at 11.31.
Lower, okay.
Now, in simple terms, this means investors are paying about $12 for every dollar of PDD's earnings.
$12 for every dollar, okay.
Now, considering their profitability and growth potential, those numbers seem
Pretty low, right?
pretty low, yeah.
Especially compared to other high-growth tech companies.
Oh, yeah, some of those have PE ratios that are just through the roof.
Exactly. So this seems like a good deal.
Right, and then there's the PG ratio,
Good ratio, okay.
which takes into account the company's future growth prospects. PDD's PEG ratio is a tiny 0.53.
Tiny.
A PD ratio below 1 is often seen as a sign that a stock is undervalued relative to its expected growth.
Undervalued, so basically a steal.
Potentially, yeah.
So based on these metrics, PDD looks like it could be a real bargain.
It's definitely worth considering.
Okay, so the valuation metrics are looking good, but why is the market still so hesitant?
Right, that's the big question.
We also saw some buzz online about recent price trends and technical indicators.
Yeah, those can sometimes give us some more clues.
What's the story there?
So PDD's stock price has been a bit up and down lately.
Up and down, okay.
It's currently trading above its 50-day moving average,
Okay.
which is a good short-term indicator,
Short term, good.
but it's still below its 200-day moving average.
So long term, not so good.
Well, it suggests some uncertainty. I know.
Uncertainty, okay.
But it's important to note that the price is very close to breaking above that 200-day moving average.
Oh, so it could change soon.
It could, if it breaks above that, it could signal a shift in momentum and bring in more buyers.
Interesting.
Yeah.
And then there was all that chatter about PDD's RSI being in overbought territory.
Right.
What does that even mean, and should we be worried?
So the RSI, or Relative Strength Index,
Okay.
it measures the speed and magnitude of recent price changes.
So how fast and how much the price is changing?
Exactly.
Okay.
And PD's current RSI is 72.49,
All right.
which is above that 70
Oh,
threshold.
go.
That's generally considered overbought.
Overbought. Okay.
Now, it doesn't necessarily mean the stock is about to crash,
Phew.
but it does suggest that it might be due for a pullback or a correction.
So it's like it needs to cut its breath.
Yeah, like it's been running a marathon and needs a little break.
Gotcha.
You know, a high RSI can be a sign that the stock has gotten ahead of itself
Okay.
and might need to consolidate before going any higher.
Can they mix signals from those technical indicators?
Yeah, a little bit.
Is there anything else in the charts that might give us some insight?
Well, some traders are pointing to a potential cup and handle pattern.
A cup and handle pattern.
Yeah, it's forming on PDD's chart.
I've heard of that. What is that again?
So it's characterized by a period of consolidation that looks like a cup,
Okay, cup.
right? And then followed by a smaller pullback that forms the handle.
The handle.
And if the stock breaks above the top of the handle,
Then what?
it's often seen as a bullish signal.
Bullish. So good.
Yeah, with potential for a significant price increase.
So PDD could be about to take off?
It's a possibility the breakout point for this pattern would be around $152.
Wow. That's like 20% higher than it is now.
Yeah.
Okay, but these patterns aren't always reliable, right?
Right, they're not foolproof, but they can give us some valuable clues
Blues. Okay.
about potential price movements.
Yeah, we've got a company with really solid financials,
Mm-hmm.
some interesting technical patterns,
Yeah,
and a market that just can't seem to make up its mind.
a bit of a mystery.
What does all of this mean for our listener who's trying to decide whether to invest in PDD Holdings?
Well, to answer that, we need to put all of these pieces together
Okay.
and consider some of the broader risks and opportunities that might not be obvious just from the data.
So we've got all these pieces of the puzzle, strong financials, mixed signals from the market, and some technical indicators that hint at a possible breakout. But before anyone jumps into any decisions,
Right.
we need to think about the bigger picture.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like what else could impact PDD's future?
One of the biggest things to remember is that PDD mainly operates in China.
Right.
So their success is tied to how well the Chinese economy does
Mm-hmm.
and the regulatory environment there too.
Oh, yeah, like government policies and stuff.
Exactly. Any changes to those things could have a big impact on how PDD performs.
So even if they have a good business model, there are all these outside factors that could affect them.
Right. It's like trying to sail a boat in unpredictable waters. You need to be ready for anything.
That's a good analogy.
Like, for instance, the Chinese government has been focusing more on regulating the tech sector lately,
Yeah, I've heard about that.
and any new regulations could really change PDD's growth.
So it's not just about what they're doing internally, but also what's happening around them.
Exactly.
What else should our listener be thinking about?
Well, competition is always a factor in business.
Right.
And the e-commerce market in China is super competitive.
I can imagine.
PDD has some big rivals like Alibaba and JD.com.
Oh, yeah, those are huge.
And there are always new companies trying to get a piece of the market.
So they need to stay ahead of the game.
Definitely, they've done a great job with their social commerce approach.
Mm-hmm.
But they can't just stop there. They need to keep innovating and adapting.
To keep those customers happy.
Right, and to stay ahead of their competition.
Okay, so we've got PDD Holdings, this company with tons of potential, but also some risks.
Yeah, it's a bit of a balancing act.
We've looked at their financials, their business model, technical indicators, and those bigger market factors that could affect them.
Mm-hmm.
So what's the bottom line for our listener who's heard all this and is now trying to decide whether to invest?
I think the most important thing to remember is that investing always comes with some level of risk.
Right, you can't predict the future.
Exactly. But by doing your research, analyzing the data, and considering all the factors,
Mm-hmm.
you can make better decisions and hopefully increase your chances of success.
So it's about being informed and prepared.
Right.
That's what we've tried to do in this deep dive.
Yeah, we've given you the tools and information you need to start thinking about PDD Holdings.
But ultimately, the decision is yours.
Exactly. You're the captain of your own ship.
I like that.
Yeah.
And remember, even if you decide not to invest in PDB, the things we talked about today can help you with any investment decision.
Right. The principles are the same.
Always do your research.
Yeah, due diligence is key.
Think about both the good and the bad.
Absolutely.
And never be afraid to ask questions.
Exactly. Knowledge is power.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
The investing world is always changing. There's always something new to learn.
That's what makes it so interesting.
Every company, every market, it's all a puzzle waiting to be solved.
And we love solving those puzzles.
Yeah, it's a challenge, but it's also a lot of fun.
So keep learning, keep exploring, and keep diving deep into the world of investing.
We'll be back with another deep dive soon.
But until then, happy investing, everyone.